Morning, gang. We're out here in the middle of the Anza-Borrego Desert. We are hiking my Zen hike. This is the hike I come to reconnect with myself. No, actually, this is a really bitchin' hike. This is SD-529, West Butte. I think the locals call this Borrego Mountain. It is a really nice area to come. Let's look at the, first off, let's look how we got here and the hike, and then we'll talk about it. So if you're coming from San Diego, you're just going to come down Highway 78 till you hit the Buttes Pass dirt road that takes you to the parking area. If you're coming from the Palm Springs area, you're coming down Highway 86 and then in on the Highway 78. Now this is just a 2.16 out and back mile hike with about 344 feet of elevation gain. Pretty mild hike. So this is really a mild hike. I think it's only like a little over a mile to the peak, a little over like 400 feet of elevation gain, maybe not even that. So it's a real nice hike. What I would suggest though, don't make this a summer hike. Make this a winter, spring, late autumn hike. Also, don't make this a hike you do when we've got like weather changes, because the wind whips through here. The last time Sherry and I hiked this, it was just sheer wind. We had anchored down the 7000 HDS as well as I ever had. We had dual guys on it. I had put the base was in a rock pile, and the wind picked that thing up and flipped it around, and it can get nasty out here. So if it's one of those things where you got a cold front coming through, you might check the winds, because that can be another miserable thing. Today's nostalgia day. You may notice we're packing some old gear. We don't have a VHF profile out here. The closest towns out here are El Centro and Yuma, and normally if I had access to talk in those areas I might try it, but the height above average terrain of Borrego Mountain isn't all that impressive, and we've got East Butte which blocks us to the east, so I just kind of figured forget it. What we brought out today is we figured we'd give the Yaesu a rest. We brought out a rig that I really like. It's the Tentec Argonaut 6. I bought this rig like 6 years ago. It's not a new rig, but it's a sweetheart of a rig. It's not really a soda rig. It's kind of a park bench type of rig, but man, the receiver on that thing is so sweet. So what we're doing today is real simple. No VHF at all. We brought out the Jack Kite 31-foot antenna. We're going to put that up with the, I guess it's the PAR EFT 10-20-40 trail friendly end-fed half wave. We're going to put that up, and we're going to try, we're going to do a little bit of CW and sideband on HF today. We're going to do only HF today. So with that being said, let's look at space weather real quick and see what's going on. So yeah, not impressive still. It's still kind of like milquetoast around here. Yesterday I freaked out. I got this notification on my phone. We were in the middle of a geomagnetic storm, and sure enough, the K had bounced up to 4. And I thought, this is going to be a long day on the mountain tomorrow. And actually it was, we had had a flare a few days ago, and they talked about that we were going to catch the kind of the weekend of the CME, and sure enough, it passed for about an hour. It was at a 4, and now it's back down in the 1s and 2s. So we'll see what happens on the mountain. We're going to walk you through this because this is a pretty easy hike, but there's one tricky turn up there if you missed, that me and my wife in fact missed. It puts you out in the middle of nowhere, and so we'll get this hike in. We're going to set up. We're going to hang out today. We're not in a hurry, man. This is all about relaxing, and we're going to try to work as many stations as we can, and then head out. Thanks for tagging along. Let's go. So this trail is going to trail ahead at the same spot as a area known as the slot. So don't freak out if you get here and there's a ton of cars. They're not all going to the mountain. Most of them are actually going down to this area known as the slot. So if you have time, you might want to explore that later, but that's mainly why the people are there. Your trailhead kind of goes in the same direction as all the people are going to the slot, but this is the turnoff they take, and basically they bail into the canyon. That's not your spot. Don't go down there. You're going to continue upward toward the spine of this canyon, or the ridge here. Take time, guys. I'm telling you, this is a beautiful hike. So take time to turn around and look. This is a lot of neat things out here. This is a very beautiful hike. The one thing I would recommend, this is not a good summer hike. This is not a good hot weather hike. So check your weather. Me and my wife came out here one day, and boy, we got really overheated. So keep your eye on what the temperature's doing in Ocotillo Wells. The trail continues to basically follow the spine of this ridge, and when you start getting up toward the mountain, boy, you start getting some beautiful views up there. Now, this is a critical mistake that you can make up here. There's this kind of innocuous, non-obvious turn you have to make up here, and if you don't, you end up 2/10 down of a mile to a dead end, and this is it right here, just up this little rock outcrop here. And this is actually where your trail continues its upward climb toward Borrego Mountain or West Butte. If you don't make that turn, you're not going to end up on the peak. Now keep in mind there's some turns up here, like this trail off to the left will take you right back down into Borrego Wash at the bottom of the slot. You don't want to do that. Up toward the top, the trail becomes less defined. People have made multiple trails to different points on this. Now, here are your mistake points, okay? Don't take any trails that go off to the left, and make sure at the green circle, make that turn, or you're not going to end up at the peak. You're going to end up nowhere. All right. So welcome to the top of West Butte, or Borrego Mountain, or W6CT 239 or 539. This is what you hiked up here for. This is the ends of Borrego Desert, looking out towards Salton Sea. As we come around, that's East Butte, the town of Ocotillo Wells, and then the terrain we came up. So I think what I'm going to do is look for kind of an off-summit activation zone. I don't want to be a pest. This area down here is looking awfully enticing. I might try it. Let's just be on our way. So if you go over to Red Summit RF, there's a video in there. He hiked with WA7 JTM, I believe, and he talks about getting a little bit on the downslope side of the summit toward the direction you want to talk, get a little better reflection off the hillside. So I think what we're going to do, here's our summit right there. I think we're going to put our antenna or mast right here. And I think we'll run it right down to our beautiful vista point. And we's just going to sit there all day and make contacts. Even if we don't make contacts, we's going to sit there all day. Let me get this set up. I'll walk you through it. And let's get busy. Kind of. So before we get started here, let's walk through the setup here, and we'll get you guys kind of oriented to what we're doing. So we got the 31-foot jack kite pole. We got it anchored. I'll put these in the link. These worked out really cool. This is a guy ring put up by DX Engineering. And this is the 1 3/4 one. Worked out really neat for both the jack kite and the one I use for my VHF. So that's going to run down. And to keep my feed point up off the ground, we've got the hiking stick with the feed point suspended. We're running RG 174 over to the Ten-Tech. And now we're going to get on the air. CQ, 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 40 meters for summits on the air. Kilo Golf 6, Lima, India, KG6LI, calling CQ and listening.
KG6LI from Whiskey Bravo 7, Uniform Lima Delta. Kilo 5, Delta Echo Zulu. KG6LI. KG6LI from K6 Yankee Kilo. November 4, Quebec Yankee, India.
Okay, gang, let's do our groovy little after-action report. Now, West Butte Mountain. It's an out and back hike of 2.16 miles. You can turn this into a loop. You can actually branch off and go down to the bottom of the slot and come up that way. That really adds a lot of mileage, so I'll let you research that one. But if you're going to do that, that changes the whole dynamic. So remember, you're going to need to take more water, food, and everything else. The elevation gain is only 344 feet. It's mainly mild approach with some very isolated spots of what I would call moderate, but overall it's fairly easy. The activation area is fairly wide open. You can take up any antenna, and there's all kinds of areas up there to set up, whether you want to be on top or on an off peak a little bit, but that's not a problem. Cell service up there was good. Verizon was good for me up there, so I had no problems. But APRS, I had no hits. Typically, I get a hit off of Mount Laguna, but not this time. So I don't know what the deal there is. We didn't do VHF simply because our height above average terrain was really bad. And really, there's very sparse population out in that area. You know, we're talking about El Centro, which is in reach, but I'm not sure what activity goes on Simplex out there. And then Yuma would be my next major population center, and I don't think I had enough oomph to get into Yuma, so we didn't haul in any VHF equipment. Noise sources non-existent. Trail type is really nice, single track. But as you get toward the peak, it becomes less defined, and it kind of branches off into multiple little trails. And if you continue kind of on your northeasterly path, they all come back together, and ultimately you end up at the summit. But that being said, the footing is generally good. There's just some areas that are kind of isolated, a little bit rocky. Overall difficulty is easy. But like I said earlier, man, I don't know if I would. Me and my wife went out there in June. It was like 95 degrees, and it dang near killed us. So I don't know, man. It gets up over 100, stays over 100, can get up over 110. Just watch your temps. I don't think I'd attempt it if it got above 90, but that's just me. So there you go. The equipment we took, like I said earlier, was kind of our nostalgic trip. We took the Ten-Tech Argo 6, which is one of my favorite QRP rigs. And that being said, we ran 5 watts CW, 10 watts sideband today. We did not take a VHF radio other than our FT1D, which was just for APRS. The antenna was a PAR EFT 102040 trail friendly, which is a end-fed half wave. I really like end-fed half waves, and you can build them, so don't think I'm endorsing any one particular antenna. And here's why. I've yet to find a peak you can't deploy them. In other words, if all you really have to find a place is to stick the mast, that could be into a crevice of rocks, it can be lashed to a large bush, or it can be guyed up, and then really all you have to do is run out that half wave, and if there's a large bush, you can suspend the feed point into the bush, and it's really very versatile for activation. Requires no open space and no acreage, so they're really kind of a nice antenna to deploy. No VHF antenna, no tuner. We did run our RG174 this time, and only because at 14 megahertz we were only going to lose less than 1 dB, so I figured let's just take it. And then we brought back into service the Jack Kite 31 foot pole, and in the notes I'm going to put the guying ring I bought from DX Engineering, which made it nice to guy that thing up. Okay, radioactivity, 25 contacts, band used, 40, 20, 10, 10 no contacts at all. HF, all 25 contacts came on HF, no VHF contacts. We used both CW and sideband. Again, our height above average terrain was garbage, so we didn't even. Really weird space weather going on. So the night before this activation, we had a 3-hour spike up to 4 on the K, and they'd been predicting that we were going to get the tail end of a CME. So I kind of thought, well, that's it. And it went back down into the 2-3 range. So I thought we were pretty groovy to go out and activate today. The band conditions just seemed weird, man. Most of the people I talked to that I get 589s and 599s from, the signal strength just wasn't there. And people that I normally hear clearly didn't seem like it just seemed off. Well, that night again, we peaked back up to a K of 4 and 5. Something was going on. Everybody was griping about band conditions. I don't know what it was. So thanks for coming along this time. I always hope you learned something. And we're off to another peak tomorrow, Siton Peak, which lies on the Orange County, Riverside County line, and it's got really good elevation, but it's 5 miles in, 5 miles out for 2 points. So we'll see you on the next activation. You take care.